Please welcome to BraveWords Streaming For Vengeance, Michel Langevin, better known as Away. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well,
I'm
thank you.
great.
Um, I haven't worn this t-shirt in like 35 years. And I think you signed
That
it.
oh yeah, man, that's it's a pretty rare one.
Yes,
From when we were touring with Soundgarden and Fate No More and such.
there we go. There we go. Well, it's
Yes.
all about history these days, and happy anniversary. Congratulations. 40 years. How does 40 years feel?
Well, it actually feels amazing because we seem to and we enjoy a great momentum now, and we just came back from a long tour in USA and Europe, and toured with Testament, played big festivals, and we jammed with Jason in Fort Lauderdale, jammed with Eric Forrest at Hellfest, so great times.
Now, let's talk about this collection of music and how you approached. How did you want to celebrate 40? What, like when the wheels were turning, what did you actually want to do? And did you do it right? Do you think you've done it right?
Yes, the of course the main challenge was to pick the songs out of the huge catalog that we have, and but we decided to focus on the more on the obscure side of the Voivod material, and that allowed us to refresh the set list for this year, which is great. So now we can play stuff from Angerat, but also songs from the Eric Forrest and Jason Newsted periods, which is great, and it's refreshing for the band and also for the public, I find.
Now, you did not pick a lot of obvious choices. You went pretty
Yeah.
deep, but that's what Voivod does. They just go left field, right?
Well, it's just that we didn't want to re-record the songs that we play all the time and we've been playing for decades, like The Unknown Knows, Tribal Conviction, Astronomie Dominée, and yeah, we wanted to focus on songs that actually people were asking about, like, are you gonna play Condemned to the Gallows one day? And so as the singles are coming out and when the album comes out, we will add even more material from this album onto the set list.
Now, are you surprised at your achievements in the past 40 years?
Yes, because we had some major obstacles, like the crash in Germany in '98, the unfortunate passing of Denis D'Amour in 2005. So it's quite unbelievable that we have such well, we've had such a long career, but if anything, will be remembered as an example of perseverance, I think.
Now, when you first started the band, how much parental support did you have to fight, like get a real job, or did you have the support?
Well, I had full support, and I was actually playing my drum kit in my bedroom above the kitchen. So you can imagine they were very patient. And it's just that when War and Pain came out in '84, I was torn apart because I was studying science at the university, but the album came out and it had a very good impact on what was going to become thrash metal, and so that's really where I realized that maybe we could have an international career as musicians, but so I had to quit school because it was just too much. It's actually why the guys called me away, because I wouldn't show at the rehearsals because of homework. But it's the I had full support, but I could feel the disappointment at the famous supper when I had to tell them I was leaving school for my heavy metal band. And but of course, today, we have a lot of recognition, and our families are really supportive and proud of us.
Now, growing up as fans, like you were, of course, there were pockets as things started to get heavier after Priest and Maid and Motorhead, like there was pockets in Canada and in the States and Europe, of course. What made it? Why did you want to take things to the next level of speed?
Oh, I think it just happened naturally with everybody and very quickly. And I will always be surprised on about how fast things were moving without internet, just by tape trading, you know. So, you know, in 1980, we had Ace of Spades, the first Iron Maiden album, Judas Priest, British Steel, and it was insane. But just a year and a half later, we had Venom, and then just a bit later, all of a sudden, everybody my age, we're all trying to go faster than Venom, and then you have Slayer and Metallica and everybody, you know, and it was happening as well in the punk scene where people were playing faster and faster, and all of a sudden you had DRI and COC, and so pretty exciting times. But it's just that the process was slow, where you had to send demos to the fanzines. You'd get sent questions, then you would mail the answers back. By the time you get the fanzine, it's months later, and now everything is one click away. But the difference is, it must be very hard for newer bands to get this distinguished, or I don't know if it's the proper word, but like to get noticed is what I mean.
Acknowledged, yeah.
Yeah. Because of course the tools are there, but we're lucky that we are VOIVOD. We are an established band where we get invited to play festivals and also to tour with bands that are playing very nice venues like Opeth or Testament, or so we don't have that challenge to get noticed anymore, because we jumped into that classic thrash metal thing going where
Right.
And it's fairly popular with many generations.
Can you tell me about how important punk was when you were growing up? Because I've read you're big fans of the Pistols and Pill and Johnny Lydon. Tell me about that influence.
It was mainly Snake and I that really got into it, as a teenager, it was the Clash, the Damned, Sex Pistols. But in the early 80s, I really got into Conflict, Crass, Discharge, GBH. And Snake and I will always that in our DNA. And then, of course, you know, I got influenced a lot by post-punk as well, Killing Joke, The Cure, Bauhaus, and, you know, it had a strong impact not only on my drum playing, but my visuals as well.
What could you name the key drummers that really touched your heart growing up and pushed you to go faster?
It happened before I was even thinking of going fast. You know, well, I mean, my first influence was Ringo, and then Peter Criss, and then you know, I really got into Kiss, and but as soon as I discovered Deep Purple and Uriah Heep and Black Sabbath, and it was next level in terms of drumming. I needed to rehearse a lot more to, but I had a very important influence from the Sex Pistols album because of the tom beats, where my style became very tribal. But it's really when I went to see Jethro Tull at the Quebec City Coliseum, and the openers were UK, and Terry Bozzio was on drum, and it's really where
Wow.
it's where I realized that you could really rock out playing prog rock. It was something that I will always remember seeing that show, you know, and this was probably when I was 15 or something like that. He is still a hero of mine for sure.
Now, when I saw you last in Syracuse, I'm like listening to you, and I'm like, man, your kid is really small. Is do you, how do you, how can you perform Like, do you think it's small or is it just perfect? And
Well,
how did it
it's
grow?
yeah, I mean it's small compared to many drum kits that I see at festivals where they have a cage and 100 cymbals, you know. Mine is more back to the Ringo Starr approach, but it's over the years. I had the cage with four toms, two floor toms, 15 cymbals, you know, in the 80s. But I started to get rid of pieces there and there where I took it to the minimal drum kit setup, but I think I can do exactly the same. Of course, I had to eventually, when I got rid of one bass drum, I had to buy a double kick pedal, but it's sort of like a secret weapon, really.
Now, were you aware that today, literally today, is the 35th anniversary of Dimension Hatröss?
Yes, I know. And BMG Noise just put out Dimension Hatröss vinyl for the occasion. I think it's the vinyl is colored, plastered. I can't really recall, but I think it's for 2 days anniversary.
Before we get into a little bit more of that, what do you think about this whole vinyl craze? Are you a big vinyl freak?
Well, I personally stopped buying vinyls because I had too many of them and I didn't know where to put them anymore. But I'm still a big fan of CD and CDs, you know, and I think it's absolutely great because VOIVOD is a band that sells a lot of physical product. And so the vinyls are going like crazy with VOIVOD, even the reissues, you know. And also, in terms of new material that we are releasing, it allows me to think in terms of 12 by 12 visual
Right.
graphic design, which is really, really cool. Then I can go crazy, like for the album The Wake, or, you know, and yeah, I think it's fantastic personally.
Now, I think I showed you this and you signed it when we were at Syracuse. You don't see very many long boxes these days, I don't think, do you?
Oh no, and it's a shame because you know I got the promo boxes of all the albums back in the days, and of course I opened them, and now they're gone forever. But
Right.
these were great.
Now, speaking of that particular record, would you consider that like the first really big breakthrough when you're finally seeing your second video on MTV? It really was an astounding
Yeah, I mean,
release.
you know, we had a couple of videos there and there, like Ripping Headaches, the song Voivod, and Rivedus Medicine was banned because of the torture on animals images we got, and um, so the point was kind of lost because the images were shocking to for airplay, and but Tribal Convictions got the attention. It got airplay on Music Plus, Much Music, and MTV in Europe as well, and it attracted the attention of major labels, and also, of course, it was the theme song for the Solid Rock heavy metal show at Music Plus here in Montreal and Quebec.
Nice, nice. What kind of doors do you think it opened up? I guess a lot of the touring doors, right?
Yes, I mean, you know, it was a strange period where the albums were selling more and more, and then Tribal Convictions got a lot of airplay. Then we were asked to go across USA and North America with Violence and Testament, but Piggy was taken ill with a brain tumor, so we had to cancel everything for that album. We ended up later touring with Violence across North America, but we kind of lost a bit of momentum there where we started writing Nothing Face. We didn't lose any much time, but I wish we would have toured Europe for Dimension Hatröss.
Now you were talking about the artwork. I don't speak to very many artists that are artists, but times two. So you've got the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely great, and I was lucky enough to express the music of Voivod visually and the lyrics as well, um, and also I got to do artwork for other artists, and so I'm always busy at home doing either art or demoing with the other guys, because we now we are making great demos with our respective computers, and we really fine-tune our way of working during the pandemic regarding that, because we had to be socially distancing. So we wrote Synchro Anarchy, sharing files, and but now we can write on the road, which is great. We have started writing on this last tour we just did in North America and Europe, and so we can move faster this way.
Now, on the new record, did it pull at the heartstrings? Because you were literally covering Piggy's riffs, right?
It was such a great experience that we were thinking at one point of doing a Morgöth Tales too, but we have to write a new album first for sure. We have to release a new album of original material. But it was just it's a bit like when the Noise Years compilation came out from 86 to 88. It's really where I noticed the progression the band had back then, between like within 2 years, between the first song of Roar to the last song of Dimension Hatröss. It's such a short time with a lot of progression. Well, when we re-recorded this Morgöth Tales album, covering all the periods of Voivod, all the lineups and all that, it really struck me how we evolved musically and over 4 decades, and so that's what we really wanted to do. Condemn to the Gallows, because it was the first song we had written in 83, and we also wanted to write a new song for 2023, so it's like really a loop and of 40 years.
Well, there must be something in the Canadian water, because Rush and Voivod are two great examples of every album is just this growth, this incredible growth spurt.
Yes, we're lucky because people embrace it. What I mean is we sort of went back to our prog rock roots, and the albums are more intricate, but they win Junos. So we're like, it gives us a lot of confidence in terms of experimenting with a string quartet or a brass quintet, like at the Montreal Jazz Festival. And Chewy is really good at composing and writing charts, and so we're going to try to explore even more avenues where our music is going to become even more fusion metal, and it's exciting. I feel at home because I learned to play with Terry Bozzio, as I said before. So it's okay for me to go back to prog rock mode for sure.
People say that there's nothing that sounds like Voivod. Is there a band that you would say the same about? That nothing sounds like them?
Oh, yes, I could think of a couple, but they're more in the prog rock style. But I mean, I would say Van der Graaf and Magma are very unique. Magma in particular because they created their own language. But there's a band from Milwaukee called Die Kreuzen, and they were very unique and had a lot of similarities in terms of guitar chords with Voivod. Yeah, that's the ones I can think of that I came across, over. Yeah, that's probably it.
Do you have fond memories of the Canadian metal scene? Like, did you have any favorite bands like Exciter or Razor? Because you were all kind of part of the same community. Can you describe the relationships, and what did you think about it all?
Well, we grew up on Anvil and Exciter. Before that, Rush, Mahogany Rush, Triumph, and then when we moved to Montreal, that's where we realized that the metal we were playing was not really happening in town, in the sense that everybody was still playing sort of a 70s rock type of music, and they were playing Deep Purple type of music, and so we and some of the bands were really into Motley Crue, but the hardcore scene was really big. When we started rehearsing, all the other bands were basically hardcore bands from Montreal, Fair Warning, Countdown Zero, Unruled, and but soon enough there were a couple of bands that popped into the rehearsal space, Aggression, Damnation, and then all of a sudden there's DBC, and so it started to appear, but it's maybe in the 90s that I started to run into bands while touring the world, Gorguts, Cryptopsy, Cataclysm. Slowly but surely, they were like bands who started to be fairly well known and touring the same circuit, and and that's where there was some sort of a Quebec metal scene going, and also a Canadian metal identity that was more tech metal oriented. People saw it as such.
What how were you inspired during those really lean years in the 90s?
Well, we were really dedicated, and we wanted to make it happen, and it was tough because when we moved in '85 to Montreal from Jonquière, northern Quebec, we were really poor. We had $150 each from welfare, and so we moved, the four of us, in a smaller apartment in the eastern part of Montreal. It was infested with cockroaches. We wrote songs about it, and so that was a tough period because we were between deals. But and also when we moved to Montreal, we as soon as we set up our gear in a rehearsal space downtown, we got some of it stolen. So we were recording Roar. We were poor, had no money, didn't know what to do. So with Rock Attack, our management organized the World War III festival.
Right.
And with Celtic Frost, Destruction, Possessed, Nasty Savage, and thousands of people showed up, which allowed us to finish the album and buy some new gear. And we actually gave a rough mix of Roar to Martin Ain, who gave it to Noise Records. So we got a deal for 3 albums, which really... it's really where it started internationally for us, where we started touring with Celtic Frost in North America and Possessed in Europe, and it just went on.
I loved that photo when Tom showed up to your show somewhere in Europe, I guess in Switzerland, right? Probably.
Yes.
That was an amazing photo, dude.
It was a surprise visit from Tom, and we had a great chat from the crazy old days of the US tour in '86, and also we took a photo with the Opeth people and Tom on the floor before in front of the stage, and somebody wrote under it Morgöth Tales, and I thought, that's brilliant. I never thought about that. How come? And so we decided to call the album Morgöth Tales. And
Really?
the song,
Wow.
it's really funny. And the song we were writing for the new album, we decided to call it Morgöth Tales as well. And I actually wrote to Tom about it because it's such a great wink to the Morbid Tales EP, a famous EP of Tom and Celtic Frost,
Speaking of bands that nobody sounds like, right?
It's true. When we did the first tour in USA with Celtic Frost, it just seemed we were part of this avant metal scene, and because it was such a great match. And but we soon realized after that, when we did the Possess tour in Europe and then the Creator World Tour for Killing Technology, that we were kind of an odd ball in the thrash metal scene, Voivod, I mean, and Celtic Frost probably. So there was also, we played with Watchtower in USA when we toured with Celtic Frost, and they were pretty unique as well.
I saw the whole Triptychon Celtic Frost thing in the spring, Hell's Heroes, and Tom is nailing all those songs bang on. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. Have you seen it yet?
No, I haven't seen it, unfortunately. The last time I saw Tom perform was the Celtic Frost reunion, but it was like probably 15 years ago or more. So it's a while. But we met many times since at Roadburn Festival in Holland, and then
Right.
and Zurich when he came to the sound check in the afternoon.
As we continue to reminisce here, I just started Geezer Butler's book, and we're just on the first record. And he said the main reason that first record was so heavy was because, number one, they were still learning their instruments, and they were rushed in the studio. They had like 2 or 3 days, and they were done. And he says that's why that album sounds so heavy. Can you remember? Can you relate that to the early Voivod years?
Yeah, I know what he means. I mean, Warren Payne, we had like just a couple of days of studio in terms of budget, and so you can definitely feel the urgency, and of course there's a youthful energy, and this it's something you can really replicate after. I mean, when we did the Morgöth Tales album, the goal was not to recapture this youthful energy, it was just to have fun recording these songs, and also deliver these songs the way we are now. And but I was like, when we decided to do Come Down to the Gallows, and I was not able to replicate the drum roll at the beginning like it was done on the first recordings we did for Metal Massacre 5. It's sort of a mixture of deficit of attention with hyperactivity, and it's really funny, man. And so we sampled it, but we got the permission from Brian Sligo to sample the intro of Come Down to the Gallows. So it is the intro of the album.
Couple more quickies for you. What was it like seeing Mr. Newstead again?
That's Jason is absolutely great. He's full of positive energy all the time, and he's a great friend for many years now, maybe 35 years or so. And it's always great to see him, but to have him on stage with us playing Rebel Robot and the song Voivod, such a great moment. And that's what this album allows us to do now, where Eric Forrest joined us on stage at Hellfest. It was to sing Rise, and the Voivod family is a big one, and it's but pretty spread out, so it's always great to cross paths.
Nice. And an update on the documentary. Who's producing the documentary?
It's Felipe Belalcazar, who did Death by Metal,
Okay.
about the band Death. Of course,
Yes,
of course, like many projects, it was slowed down during the pandemic, where Felipe couldn't travel to do the interviews, but now all the interviews are done, and is right now trying to edit many hours into some hours. It's a long work. It's a long work. We're hoping to have it to get it out next year, and same with the book by Jeff Wagner.
Where do you think? Do you still think you've got the hunger like you did in the early days, 40 years on? And where do you think that hunger comes from?
It comes from an addiction to travels, I think, on my end, where every time we had a hiatus, I really got antsy and I wanted to go back on the road and play Voivod music in front of my old friends and new friends. And I don't know, it's something that always brought me back to heavy metal. And now that we are touring internationally again, we were actually afraid when we started last year that people wouldn't show because of the traumatism from the pandemic, but people show up. So it's amazing, man. What a thrill, you know. I'm really glad. And we still have a lot of work. We have a lot on our plate this year still, with Quebec shows in July, and then Euro shows and festivals in August. September, we have more Quebec festivals and one in Brazil. We want to play in Montreal before the end of the year, but I think it's in October, November, December, and January. We might have a bit of a break to write new material right there.
Anything written yet, or just little ideas?
Yes, we Rocky and Chewy are pretty active on the road on their computers, and so we have a bunch of ideas. And I will do like I did in the past couple of years, where I will program the drums on my computer for the demos, and then that will allow us to morph it into Voivodian material. But it's really when we get into the studio, the four of us, that it makes a lot of sense and it gels together, you know.
I'm going to finish off with something really strange that happened to me today. When I was Googling Voivod, I spelled it wrong and I left out the I. And you know what came up as a replacement? COVID.
Really?
So try that.
Yeah, it's funny because during the peak of COVID, I almost wanted to turn the classic Voivod logo into the word COVID at one point, but I put it aside because it was already too much going on online.
But you'll have to try it. I don't know if it's funny, but I thought it was pretty funny. So actually, one more thing, your daily doodle. My wife, Seth, who loves you guys to death, you met her in Syracuse. She's like, we got to talk to him about the daily doodle.
Yes, I've been doing that forever. Where it's my impression of the city after every show. I do it in the bus, at the hotel room, or backstage, and it's my day in the city. And when I look back at it, I can exactly remember what I saw, the sculptures I saw, what happened, and all that. It's like a journal, and it's actually my next book is the road art that I do. I'm hoping to wrap it up in July. It's usually represents the architecture of the town, or an event that happened, or something we saw alongside the road between cities, it's my like 20 minutes to myself after the whole day. It's pretty hectic on the road. Not much time to walk around the venue as I did when I was younger. I sort of force myself not to walk too much, but I like to take photos of the architecture and the sculptures. That's my favorite. But yeah, I always have to remember that I have 75 minutes of double kick drum coming at me.
You are such a treasure. Thank you so much. Good luck with your travels. Hopefully we'll see you live or in person at some point in time soon. But and good luck with this release and everything. All right. Thank you so much.
And thanks